Hi everyone, welcome to the Enthusiastic Buddhist. In this episode, I want to talk about going on a Buddhist pilgrimage and what are some of the benefits for going on one. The Buddha came to this world with the sole intention to spread the message of living a life filled with compassion and wisdom. So there's no doubt that with such noble intentions, anywhere the Buddha went was sure to be blessed by his presence and the message of his teachings. And although the Buddha did many remarkable things during his life, there are a few key events that were especially important, so it is in these places that the Buddha urged us to visit. In the final hours before the Buddha passed away, he told his loyal attendant Ananda, "There are 4 places, Ananda, that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence." What are the 4? Here the Tathagata was born. This, Ananda, is a place that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence. Here the Tathagata became fully enlightened in unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. This, Ananda, is a place that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence. Here the Tathagata set rolling the unexcelled wheel of the Dharma. This, Ananda, is a place that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence. Here the Tathagata passed away into a state of Nibbana in which no element of clinging remains. This, Ananda, is a place that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence. These, Ananda, are the 4 places that a pious person should visit and look upon with feelings of reverence. And truly there will come to these places, Ananda, pious bhikkhus and bhikshunis, laymen and laywomen, reflecting, here the Tathagata was born. Here the Tathagata became fully enlightened in unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. Here the Tathagata set rolling the unexcelled wheel of the Dharma. Here the Tathagata passed away into the state of Nibbana in which no element of clinging remains. So the Buddha suggested that the 4 places we should visit are Lumbini, where he was born, Bodh Gaya, where he attained full enlightenment, Sarnath, where he gave his first sermon to the 5 ascetics, and Kushinagar, where he passed away into Mahaparinibbana. The Buddha even went on to say, "And whoever, Ananda, should die on such a pilgrimage with his heart established in faith, at the breaking up of the body after death, will be reborn in a realm of heavenly happiness." Now, I'm sure the Buddha didn't want people to die on pilgrimage, but he was just highlighting the merit of visiting these holy sites. One of the reasons the Buddha urged people to visit the holy places was probably because when you reflect on the greatness of his deeds in these places and develop strong faith and devotion towards him and his qualities, it does plant wonderful seeds in our mind to talk, behave and think in a way that resembles the spirit of his teachings. For instance, when we sit in Lumbini and recall the Buddha's birth and some of the extraordinary events surrounding it, it can humble us to consider how meaningful our lives have been so far. Has our birth brought something good to this world and the people we interact with on a daily basis? I guess in some ways we can use pilgrimage as a way of making a fresh start for ourselves, as having a new rebirth of our own, so to speak. Going on pilgrimage can change us and help us to resolve to live a more compassionate life. To have a mind that lets go and forgives the past more easily. And it's said that when the Buddha took his first steps as a baby, lotuses sprung up from the ground beneath him. You could say that by visiting Lumbini and resolving to live a more compassionate and virtuous life that helps others instead of harming them, we too will cause lotuses to blossom. But these lotuses will be the lotuses of our own loving kindness, arising in our own hearts due to our own resolve to practice a life of compassion and virtue. So that is probably just one of the transformations we might experience from visiting the birthplace of the Buddha. Now, when we visit Bodh Gaya and recall the Buddha's great determination to sit in the same place until he reached enlightenment, we would definitely be inspired to practice meditation with more diligence, to meditate holding all sentient beings compassionately in our heart, and we're invited to reflect on the great benefits that come from our own practice of meditation. Meditation is such an integral part of Buddhism, and perhaps a lot of us know we should be doing more of it, but we don't due to our own procrastination or some other obstacle. Well, visiting Bodh Gaya can definitely give our meditation practice a huge boost and provide the inspiration that we might have been lacking. Then when we sit in Sarnath, where the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, we have the opportunity to reflect on the validity of his teachings. We might see that our repeated cravings for things have led to certain behaviours and activities in our lives which initially promised us so much happiness, yet came up short time and time again. And reflecting on this may bring greater insight and an understanding that happiness can only come from within, thus making us more resolute to practice virtuous conduct, which will definitely bring us happiness now and in the future. And when we sit in Kushinagar, where the Buddha passed away, we're invited to marvel at the endless creation and dissolution of all things, and to find an inner freedom in letting things go so that they don't become a burden or a cause of sorrow for us. Also, by reflecting on the Buddha's death, it can definitely instill a great sense of urgency to practice virtuous deeds and to meditate before it's physically too late. These are just some of the blessings, insights and recollections we might have at any one of these pilgrimage sites. Hopefully you can see how visiting these places might provide a positive shift in the conduct of our body, speech and mind, and you can see why the Buddha would have recommended visiting these holy sites. There are certainly many blessings one can receive by merely travelling to these holy places. It's said that there are 3 pilgrimages one can make: an outer pilgrimage, an inner pilgrimage and a secret pilgrimage. The outer pilgrimage is when we physically go to visit the holy places. So for some people, there may not be much change happening in their thoughts or attitude about themselves, life and others during a physical pilgrimage, but the mere physical effort alone in travelling to such places is still worthwhile and is likely to purify our body of many negative habits of the past. In relation to an inner pilgrimage, this is when an internal change is happening and our mind is beginning to feel blessed with a happiness and purity that it's never experienced before. We may feel great determination to change our life for the better. We could find ourselves feeling and acting more kind and generous in ways that never seemed possible before. Or we may even find ourselves up at dawn to meditate, or meditating longer, or creating some other healthy meditative habit. Then there is the secret pilgrimage, where even awakenings of spiritual insight can happen by merely walking into these places. I went on my first Buddhist pilgrimage when I was 19 years old, and I didn't know anything about Buddhism at that time. But due to the spiritual power of these places, it certainly left a lasting impression on me. And now that I understand the Buddhist teachings, I've since been on 3 more Buddhist pilgrimages to Nepal and India, and I'll definitely be going on more because I know how blessed these places are. And I believe my teachers when they say that the power of our practice, such as meditation and prayers, is multiplied enormously when performed in these places, especially in Bodh Gaya, which is said to be the place where all the past and future Buddhas will attain enlightenment. Of course, I could have spent my money travelling to different parts of the world, but when you put aside the time, money and effort to travel to another part of the world, we really should think about what is the result we want to achieve with our travels. We could go to a nice tropical island and lie on a beach somewhere, and it might give us a nice tan and help us achieve some sense of relaxation. But the benefit is often short-lived, and we can find ourselves stressed out again as soon as we return back home and go back to work. But when we visit the holy sites of the Buddha, to sit and meditate there, to listen to and reflect on the Buddha's teachings, these are unique experiences that can bring a clarity and determination to our mind to make a change in ourselves and in our lives that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. These kind of journeys really can change our lives. So this year, to help people who want to go on a spiritual journey and do a Buddhist pilgrimage, I'll be leading a group on a 2-week tour to the holy sites of the Buddha. You can think of the tour as being a bit like a mini retreat of sorts. So yes, there are a few early morning starts, but nothing good was ever gained without a little effort, right? And usually we only get up early to take a coach somewhere anyway, so you can always sleep on the coach. But you probably won't want to sleep though, because India and Nepal are fascinating countries to visit. It probably wasn't until my 6th or 7th time travelling to India before I even had a glimmer of thinking that I'd seen this before. because life in India is so different to what we see in the West, and everything is just intriguing, admittedly sometimes in a good and bad way. Anyway, I hope this video has helped you to understand the historical reasons for making a Buddhist pilgrimage, mainly because the Buddha advised it. And the more personal reason is that it can affect our lives at the deepest of levels. I would also like to add that if for some reason you cannot go on a Buddhist pilgrimage, you can always ask others who are going to make offerings and prayers on your behalf. I think this is a really nice way to make a connection with these places when you aren't able to get there yourself. So that's all from me. I'll put a link up here and below so you can go and read all about the pilgrimage I'm leading. And I really do hope that you make the time to visit the holy sites of the Buddha at some point in your life, whether with me or with someone else, as I'm sure it'll be a trip you'll never forget. So take care everyone, and I hope to see you all in the next episode.